Okay, and next let's do our navigation section. So the nav is this little area right here at the top, Home, About, Services, Contact. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that in an unordered list. So we'll do ul id equals nav. And within the nav, we'll do a few list items. And we're only going to do, as per usual, just the home page of this. So I'm just going to have them linked to nowhere. And the first one will be home. Copy all this. And we'll do 4 total. So we have home, about, services, and contact, I believe. Contact us. Okay, next let's work on the actual banner. And I'm calling it banner because maybe in an actual project, it would be some pretty picture of a lady. But the banner is referring to this about dark blue background. So let's come back and I'm going to do div id equals banner. And let's label that properly. Okay, and I'm going to do the heading about. We will use image replacement to use that Rockwell font. Sorry, my computer's moving a little bit slow. I've got a lot of programs running. Okay, and we need to paste in some text. So let's go back, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. Come back to Aptana and paste it in. There we go. All right, what else? Let's see. Actually, that'll be good for the banner. Everything else we will accomplish with background images and image replacement. So now let's focus on this main section that contains the sidebar and the primary content area. So I'm going to wrap everything here within a div with an ID of main. So let's do that right now. Let's do div ID equals main. And we'll start with the sidebar. I'm just going to call it secondary rather than sidebar because you never know, it may not be the sidebar after somebody plays with it. So this way it stays a little more easy to work with. Okay, and I'm going to put an unordered list, and this will contain it's kind of the sub-navigation. So once again, let's just do an anchor tag that links nowhere. And it's going to be about us. Now you might be wondering why I didn't just make the secondary an unordered list rather than using a div and then an unordered list within it. And that's a very good point. And the reason I did that is because maybe when it's customized, the user is going to add more than just navigation. Maybe they're going to add, sponsors section or, Flickr section. And in that case, you would need to have a wrapping div. So that's why I did it this way. Let's see, we have how we work. What else? Testimonials. And finally, contact support. Okay. So that takes care of the secondary section. Now let's work on the primary section. So I'm going to do another div id equals primary. Label it end primary. And let's use a heading level 2 tag for that, and that's going to be called how we work. And now we're going to paste in some of this gibberish text. So I'm just going to copy that once again, come back to Aptana, and paste it in. Okay. Let's come back and let me just do a little bit of cleanup real quick. Here You're welcome to fast forward, 15 seconds or so. Okay, I think that's all of them. Let me see if I missed anything. There's one more. And I'm just not used to this editor, so I'm sure maybe there's a quicker way to auto format. Let me see if I right click format. Control Shift F. Okay, good. That works. So let me make sure there was 4 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. So that takes care of our main content section. The final thing, and actually, you know what? I think that's it. I don't think Collis used a footer. No. So that's our layout. We did our header, and then our navigation section, then our banner, then our main div. We had our secondary content, which had the secondary navigation, and we had the primary content. So let's go ahead and view this in the browser and see what we end up with. So I'll hit run and come back to Firefox, and this is what we end up with, a nice naked layout. So we are going to take this whole thing and turn it into, take this whole thing and turn it into what Collis created for us. Okay, let's get into it. Let's come back to Aptana, and now let's create a new CSS file. All right, so I'm going to create a new folder, and we'll call this CSS appropriately. And let's add a new CSS file, and I'm going to call this styles.css. Okay, and then finally we just need to link to it in the head portion. So let's quickly give this a title. We'll call it design by Collis. All right, and let's link to it. So we're going to do link href equals css/styles.css, and rel is style sheet. All right, let's come back to Firefox, and we can get started writing some CSS. Let's refresh the page. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-E to edit my web page using the Web Developer toolbar. If you don't have that, just Google it and you can download it. I highly recommend it. I use it on most of these screencasts. Okay, first step, body. Let's do a few things. Because we're using a centered layout, to compensate somewhat for really old browsers, I'm going to set the text align to center on the body element, and that will make sure that the container div is centered on the page, because on those older browsers, margin auto doesn't always function the way you think it might. Font family, I believe Collis used Helvetica, and backup will be Arial, and then just a sans serif. Font size, I'm going to set to 100%. Next, let's style all anchor tags. We obviously don't want that underline, so let's do text decoration equals none. And I'm going to set the color to white. But you know what? We'll come back to that, because right now we won't be able to see it, so we'll come back and remove that later. And just to create just a simple underline when the user hovers over the anchor tag. So we'll do text decoration underline. Okay, and then finally, we need to give the user some feedback to let them know which page they're actually on. And I'm going to do that by applying a class of selected to the anchor tag of the page that's on. So for instance, if we are on the testimonials page, I'm going to add a class of selected to that anchor tag. So I'm going to do a selected. Now we haven't added that into our HTML just yet. We'll do that shortly. So you won't see anything different yet. And we'll just set the font weight to bold. Simple enough. Okay, let's style all paragraph tags. We will do the color. Let me check my notes. We have 43433F. And that's just a light grayish black color, so it's not so extreme. And I'm going to set the line height to 921 pixels. Now, I literally did that by going into Photoshop and measuring the line height and then using that. So with Collis's designs, it's very important that you get as close to possible as far as the spacing and the line height. That's very important. That's what makes the entire design. So I made sure I tried to match that as best as I could. Okay, let's do the heading 2. If you remember, the only thing that's a heading 2 is this how we work section. And I'm just going to set that color to a little bit lighter again, 363 E4A. Okay, and that just brings it down ever so slightly. And I'm going to set the font size to 30 pixels, which is what Collis had it set in Photoshop. All right, let's do some more resetting. I'm going to set, for all list items, I'm going to set the list style to none. Okay. Let's see what else. Whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. That gets rid of the bullets. And now let's work on our container div. If you remember, the container div is the wrap. It wraps our entire website. So I'm going to set margin to auto to center it on the page. But first, we need to set a width. And he set a width, I believe, of 921 pixels. There we go. And if you see, if I set just a random background color for now, you'll see that show up. Okay, let me zoom out. And there's the frame for our layout. But we don't want a background color, so let's get rid of that. And I'm going to align the text back to the left because we centered it in the body element. So text align left. Okay, let's continue on. Now let's work on the header. And if you remember, the header contains the logo and the using a simple layout to create several different looks. So all I'm going to do for that right now is set position to relative. And that's because I'm going to have to, unfortunately, absolutely position this using a single layout. And I'll tell you why. It's a little bit of a drag. I wouldn't want to do it, and it's not the best thing we could do, but because of the image replacement, I had to. So let's do header H1. And I'm going to use image replacement. So we will do set the color. Actually, I don't need to set the color at all. I'm going to do text indent to negative 9,999 pixels, and that will shift it off the page. And then we're going to add a background image. And the background is going to be URL images / your logo heading.png. And I only want it to show up once, so no repeat. Okay, and the reason you're not seeing that is because that is a white image. So for instance, if I set a background color of red, it'll show up. I think. Yeah, there it shows. So let's go ahead and take care of that right now. Oh, by the way, this your logo heading, if you remember when I said in Photoshop, I just cropped out that title, saved it. I saved it as your logo heading. So now we're just adding it on. So let's go ahead and work on some of our backgrounds real quick. I'm going to zoom out again. And above the body element, I'm going to add HTML, and we're going to add that texture background. So let's do background is URL images / bg.jpg. Okay, now you can see, if I zoom in real close, you can see this is that texture background that Collis was using. All right, let's zoom out. So we're slowly but surely getting to where we want to be.